My name is Laurelee, and this is It's Not About Food. So it's not about food, and it's not about weight. What is it about? Everything else, because it's never ever about food or weight. Never ever, not even one time, not ever, ever, ever. Hi, this is Laurelee Roark. I'm one of the founders of Beyond Hunger and also the co-creator of the Body Love Cards. And this is the It's Not About Food podcast. That's also the name of the book that Carol and I wrote, It's Not About Food. And so we are here to remind you that it is not about food. It is not about your body. It is not about any of the stuff you think it's about. Never, ever, not even one time. And so today I'm going to talk about reflection of the Body Love Cards. And in the front, the goddess has her beautiful little spirit animal deer with her, and she's looking into a pond in a beautiful forest, and it's reflecting back to her. A lot of us have such a hard time with the mirror. The card says in the back, reflection is the ability to see your true self mirrored back to you. Unfortunately, we spend most of our lives using the mirror as a way to judge the imperfections in our appearance, which is limited and biased perception of who we are. By changing how we see our reflection, we can expand and transform our vision to include the beauty of our true selves. And that is such a trip to think in this culture that you can look in the mirror and see your true self instead of, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, I don't like this, I don't like that. I need some work done here. I need to go and do this. I hate this bathing suit. I hate this whatever we look in. My guest today is Carol Normandi, my business partner who we've been together for many, many years. And she's going to talk about reflection with me. But I do want to say something about this, Carol, is that we talked at a women's conference many years ago, and Carol came right out on the stage and said, how many of you looked in the mirror today and said, oh, I hate myself. I hate my hair. I hate my wrinkles. I hate this body. I hate this. And these were powerful women in San Francisco coming to this powerful women's conference. And right away, she just brought the room together. Like they all went, yeah, that would be me. I did that today. And it was a beautiful moment of getting real right away. So I want to commend you again for doing that at that time. And introduce Carol, my good friend and my business partner and all things of the heart.
Thank you, Laurelee. It's funny you mentioned that because when you were reading this card, I was thinking about the workshop we did where we had the mirror work, where we had the mirror in front of the group, and one by one, we had women come up and actually work with them to look at their true reflection in the mirror, to look with their heart, to look at their beauty, and train them not to look at themselves with a critical eye and the cultural critical eye. And this is what we're talking about in terms of seeing our true reflection. We have been trained to look at ourselves in a certain critical way where we will never look beautiful to ourselves.
Right.
There will always be something wrong with us.
Right.
And, the extreme form of that is body dysmorphia, where, many people with eating disorders have body dysmorphia, where you actually see a hugely distorted perspective of yourself. So someone who might be extremely thin might actually see themselves as extremely fat. Yep. So that's an extreme part of what I'm talking about. But everyone who's grown up in this culture has a little bit of dysmorphia where they look at themselves in the mirror and they don't see their whole selves.
Right. Right. And how many women and men over the years, over the 32 years of us doing this work, how many of women that are beautiful and lovely and kind and compassionate and sweet, how many men are strong and just loving partners to their their people or their dad, wonderful dads to their kids, and they just look in the mirror. They do not see anything like that. They see something so horrendous that they can't even look in there. And I love that you brought that up about that workshop, because remember, everybody in that workshop was a therapist, and they had such a hard time doing that exercise.
Right. And this is part of our conditioning.
Yeah.
And we can learn to recondition ourselves.
Yep.
And learn to do it differently. There's that interesting, it was done a while ago. You'll remember the little dove video where they had someone come in and sketch people based on what someone else described them, and then they described themselves. And what they found was that as we describe ourselves, we just describe a one-dimensional of how we see ourselves in the mirror, but we don't describe the light in our eyes. We don't describe the joy in our voice or the laughter. But when someone else was describing them, they described that. And so the picture, the drawing, had that three-dimensional quality of who they were shining through.
Yes.
And this is when we're looking for a true reflection of ourselves, this is what we have to look for when we're looking in the mirror or when we're looking in each other.
Right.
Is to step out of that critical, judgmental mind and look for the whole person.
Right. We forget that when we look at ourselves. And we're taught to do that. Like you're saying, if I didn't think that, if I thought that my wrinkles were okay, I wouldn't buy this jar of magic cream. I would get rid of it for $300, I would just say, nah, I'm going to take that $300 and go to Europe. So we live in a capitalist society. That's the way it is. But we don't have to believe it when they're telling us that we're not okay unless we buy these pants or we get this car or we get this operation on our face or whatever. That is what's going to make us happy, and that's not true.
Right. And the good thing about learning it is that we can unlearn it. And it's possible to unlearn it, even if it's been conditioned since we were teeny tiny, which it has been.
Yep.
We can be mindful enough to start relearning it. So I often have people, when they take up a magazine and they start looking at the model on the front and start, looking at the body, say, oh, stop. Think about who that model is. What's their personality? What are they doing? Or when you look at a picture of yourself and you see, oh my God, I look terrible.
Right.
That's the first thing people do when they see a picture of themselves. You say, oh, well, actually, wait, what are you doing in that picture? Who are you with? What type of enjoyment are you having? How are you showing up? Who is showing up in that picture? Who is showing up?
Right. I have a client who took a video of herself dancing, and the first thing that she told me after she saw the video was how fat she was. And I said, I was watching how great it was you were dancing.
Right.
And it's just so weird that we're like that, that we don't see the joy in us. We'll look at everybody else and go, well, they look okay, but I look like an ogre. And again, I lay it at the feet of the culture we live in, because there's a lot of money spent on making us feel bad about ourselves. So we'll buy that product. And
exactly,
it comes from our family and everything else too.
Right. And then we're also just not taught to really be present with ourselves and each other. So when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what's it like to just take a pause and look in your eyes and say, hi, I see you. Hello in there. I see you. I see you in there. Or good morning. Or how are you doing this morning? The mirror really is a powerful opportunity to connect with ourselves and be present with ourselves.
Yes. And that reminds me of many years ago, before I recovered from my eating disorder, I was a crazy gym rat. And I can remember going to a free class on Thanksgiving Day that the gym had. And the teacher said, and and I paid for this. This is what I think is so crazy is I paid for this gym membership. But she said, now today when you eat all this Thanksgiving dinner, I want you to go into the bathroom and pull down your pants or you pull up your dress and look at your thighs and see if you need that extra helping of stuffing. And I just remember thinking that at the Thanksgiving dinner, is it time to check my thighs? Like a little soldier.
So awful.
So awful. And then I think many years later, we were doing a workshop right around the holiday time, and you said, if you feel really funky at the Thanksgiving dinner, go into the bathroom and look in your eyes and tell yourself, hello, come back to the room, hello, how are you doing? Are you okay? That's such a different way, just in those few short years of the two things. Oh, how great would it be if we could just look in our own eyes and go, hi, are you there? Come back. I love you.
Yeah, this is a practice that I had to do in my own recovery. And I'm sure people thought I had some sort of bathroom problem, but when I would go to a party and my body hatred would arise, I knew that my body hatred was language for feeling bad or insecure
Yes.
or uncomfortable. And I'd have to pull myself out of wherever I was and go in the bathroom and shut the door and look in my eyes and say, I love you and I accept you exactly as you are.
That's
Take
right.
a breath. You're okay. There's nothing wrong with you, and go back out. And sometimes I had to do that 4 or 5 times in one night just to, recenter myself. And this is the retraining of seeing our true reflection.
Yes. Seeing who we truly are and not what the stupid jazzercise teacher said. That is so crazy when I think about it. But I have used that myself and I've taught it to other people. And I remember not that long ago, I told my granddaughter, well, when you get really worried about things, just go in the bathroom and look in your eyes and tell yourself to come home. She's like, wow, Grandma, that's great. But I learned that from us, me and you. So anything else you want to talk about reflection? Any kind of other thing that you think needs to also be said about this issue or this, this sort of reflection of how great we really are? We have in our book that Marianne Williams quote where you really saw yourself, really knew who you were, you would shock yourself. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah, don't be afraid of who. There's no purpose in playing small. Be big and grand, and be the true you. I think that another way to practice this reflection is not only our reflection, but reflecting back to people who they are. Right. I was in a situation the other day where I was having a somewhat intimate conversation with someone about some topic, and I stood up to walk away and they made a comment about my body. And immediately what came to mind was what you used to say, which is my body is not up for discussion. But I realized what a disservice that was to this actual presence of being with each other, that our mind automatically is trained to go into judging someone for what their body looks like one way or another, and that a judgment of saying, oh, you're thin, or this part of your body's thin, or whatever, is just the same as saying you're fat. It takes the awareness away from the present moment and connecting with it and putting it on judging someone for what their body looks like. And it's not a bad thing that this happened. This is just our culture. This is the way we think. But it is retraining ourselves when we look at other people, when we notice that we're checking out the size of their body in whatever way it is, or the color of their hair or their wrinkles or whatever it is, we just notice, oh, there's that judging mind. There's that judging mind.
Right.
And then redirect ourselves back to, well, who is this person? What's happening in this moment? And the social media right now, all the research shows that Instagram, Facebook, all the social media right now really increases body dissatisfaction because we are spending so much time focusing on appearance.
Right.
That's just what those things do because they're one-dimensional again. So we really, really have to work and practice dropping our perspective into a deeper way of seeing other people and reflecting that back to them. So instead of saying, oh, look at how cute you are today, which is fine to say that, but you can also say, oh, I really see how engaged you are in this, or how much time you're giving to this, or that you're sad today, or whatever it is.
Yes. Or just looking at somebody and just saying, I am so happy to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. And just stop with that. We don't really have to say, and you've got such a tiny waist and little feet. We don't have to.
Right, exactly.
It's like, we don't need that tag along. God,
exactly.
I know. And the social media, you're right. I mean, I still go into schools and talk about this issue with the peer educators, and they are just like, oh man, it's relentless. It is relentless on them of what, and everybody photoshops their own self too before they put stuff on social media, or they have themselves look like a bunny or a panda or a, it's like, what? You're not a bunny though. Don't be a bunny. You're a person.
Yeah. And I think the really interesting thing about that is that, so when we're posting on Instagram, for example, and let's say we don't like exactly how we look, so we modify it. We, get in there and we change how we look and we post it.
Yeah.
We think we're doing it for others, but we're really doing it for ourselves.
That's right.
We're really messing with our own reflection because we want to look a certain way or be a perfect way. And we're just increasing that obsession of the critical mind trying to attain some perfection that is impossible anyway to attain.
Right.
And so we step into another paradigm when we're doing that behavior.
Yes.
Instead of dropping back into, okay, I'm going to post a picture of myself, at this river because I really enjoy being here and I want to share how beautiful this is with people. I want to share this beautiful experience.
Right. So
working on really thinking of ourselves as a reflection of who we are and not what we look like in the world.
Right. Right. I sat behind, the last time I went on a plane, I sat behind a young woman across the aisle and behind, like kitty-cornered, and watched this young woman take every picture she had taken of herself and completely change it. She must have been on a vacation, like in a hot place, because she had a lot of little sundresses on, or shorts, or a bathing suit. And every time I looked over there, I saw her just meticulously taking out a spot or a little lump or some kind of imperfection in her face or her body. And she didn't, I just kept kind of looking at her and looking away, and I'd look back, but she didn't do it to anyone else in the picture. Like, her friends got to be who they were, or the people on the street were okay with whatever. But she was really, it was like she was sculpting herself every picture. And of course, it was smaller and longer and leaner and more tan and more beautiful according to whatever, I don't know, whatever thing she had in her head.
Right. And it's a really interesting phenomenon in our culture right now because we have the capacity right now to live in this virtual reality. Mm-hmm. So either virtual reality on screen, or we have the option to get every surgery, plastic surgery, Botox, whatever we can to change our appearance. And so we have this opportunity to do that, and we can follow it to the extreme now.
Right.
But guess what? That's not the reflection we're looking for. We are all spiritual beings. We really don't want to look perfectly. What we want is love, and we want to know the truth of our own love and light.
Yes.
And so it's a rabbit hole that has been created for us that we can follow, but it's not going to take us to where we want to go.
Right.
So when we talk about reflection and true reflection, what we're wanting out of reflection is to see the truth of who we are, which is love and light.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can't be changed by a little app.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting that we have that, we have this great tool now to
Yeah.
go down that rabbit hole.
Right. Right. And as you were talking about this, I thought, and really what we all want, or I would think what we all want, working with people this long and knowing my own self, we just want to be loved for who we are and how we are. We don't want to have somebody around us going, if you'd shave a little bit of that fat off of your hips, I would like you better. Like, that person can't even be my friend or come over or do anything with me. But if I do that to myself, I'm like kind of okay with it. It's such a weird thing. So
exactly. I agree with you. That's the bottom line. We want to be loved for who we are, exactly as we are. We want to be seen. We want to be acknowledged.
Right.
We want to be accepted. And there are some really great body positive sites on Instagram and on Facebook that are doing that. And so it's really a matter of just reconditioning ourselves.
Yeah. We had Elizabeth Scott and Connie on from The Body Positive a few weeks ago. And, she was so great, or both of them were so great of like, what is real beauty? Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about like what is our society tells us beauty is. Let's talk about what really is, what is really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you will read the last part of the reflection card that today I will practice.
Sure. So this is the daily meditation. Today I will practice standing in front of the mirror. I will greet myself by looking into my eyes and saying hello. And I will allow myself to look at my body as a work of art. Each time I find myself criticizing my body, I will take a deep breath, let it go, and say, I am learning to love and accept myself exactly as I am.
That is so sweet and such a hard thing to do. And it shouldn't be a hard thing to do. It should just be, I think babies do that, right? They look in the mirror and go, who is this handsome fellow? Who is this gorgeous girl? They think they're all that, and it gets beaten out of them. So we need to go back to babies and say, look at ourselves like we were a baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love this last sentence because it ties into what you were saying, is that that's what we really want. It's just we wanted to be accepted for ourselves exactly as we are.
Yes. Yes. What a concept, huh? So I want to just appreciate you so much for coming at the last minute today and being on the podcast. We had a little bit of a thing happen earlier, so I'm really so grateful for you for doing this in your busiest time, I know. Thank you very much, and thank you for all these years of us doing this work and helping so many people and helping ourselves, for God's sakes, too. Thank you.
Really. Thank you for having the podcast. It's great. And thank you for having me on. It's always an honor.
Okay. I'll see you later. Thank you for listening. And be sure and follow me on Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and itsnotaboutfood.com. Thanks.